Bristol was a two-member constituency, used to elect members to the House of Commons in the Parliaments of England, to 1707, Great Britain, 1707 to 1800, and the United Kingdom, from 1801. The constituency existed until Bristol was divided into single-member constituencies in 1885. The historic port city of Bristol is located in what is now the southwest region of England. It straddles the border between the historic geographical counties of Gloucestershire and Somerset. It was usually accounted as a Gloucestershire borough in the later part of the 19th and the 20th centuries. The parliamentary borough of Bristol was represented in Parliament from the 13th century as one of the most important population centres in the kingdom. Namier and Brooke comment that in 1754 the city was the second largest in the kingdom and had the third largest electorate for an urban seat. From the 1885 United Kingdom general election, the city was divided into 4 single-member seats. These were Bristol East, Bristol North, Bristol South, and Bristol West. The use of Roman numerals in the list below denotes different politicians of the same name, not that the individuals concerned would have used the Roman numerals as part of their name. Nonpartisan denotes that the politician concerned is not known to have been associated with a party, not necessarily that he was not. Whilst Whig and Tory societies in the city continued to nominate candidates in the last half of the 18th century, the electoral labels used in Bristol had very little to do with what the MPs did in national politics. Notes. 1. By February 4, 1536, David Broke had been elected Vice Thomas Jubbs deceased. He was probably re-elected in the 1536 general election and certainly was at the 1539 and 1542 elections. 2. A peer of Ireland. He was created a peer of England, as first Baron Butler, in 1666. 3. Died October 16, 1677. 4. Died October 11, 1685. 5. Died September 30, 1739. 6. Died October 20, 1742. 7. Died January 24, 1756. 8. Created a peer of Ireland, as first Viscount Clare, in 1767. 9. Died December 30, 1780. 10. A peer of Ireland, as first Baron Sheffield, created in 1781. 11. Adopted a new surname of Bathurst, in 1804. 12. Resigned. 13. Died March 10, 1870. 14. Election declared void on petition. During the existence of this constituency, Bristol was a city with the status of being a county of itself. That meant that the city was not subject to the administration of the officials of the geographic counties in which it was situated. In electoral terms, it meant that the voters for the parliamentary borough included those qualified on the same 40-shilling freeholder franchise as that for a county constituency. Other electors qualified as freemen of the borough. These were the ancient right franchises, applicable to Bristol, preserved by the Reform Act 1832, which also introduced a broader occupation franchise for all borough constituencies. The block vote electoral system was used in 2-seat elections and first past the post for single-member by-elections. Each voter had up to as many votes as there were seats to be filled. Votes had to be cast by a spoken declaration, in public, at the hustings, until the secret ballot was introduced in 1872. Namier and Brooke, in the House of Commons 1754 to 1790, estimated the electorate of Bristol to number about 5,000. When registration of electors was introduced in 1832, the city had 10,315 names on the electoral register. Note on percentage change calculations, where there was only one candidate of a party in successive elections, for the same number of seats, change is calculated on the party percentage vote. Where there was more than one candidate, in one or both successive elections for the same number of seats, then change is calculated on the individual percentage vote. Note on sources, the information for the election results given below is taken from Sedgwick 1715 to 1754, Namier and Brooke 1754 to 1790, Stokes-Smith 1790 to 1832, and from Craig thereafter. Where Stokes-Smith gives additional information or differs from the other sources, this is indicated in a note after the result. Note: 1715. Although the Whig candidates received fewer votes than the Tory ones, the returning officer declared them elected, and the House of Commons did not hear the petitions against the return, so Dames and Earl continued to sit throughout the Parliament. Note: 1727. William Hart, Tory, was a candidate, but he did not go to a poll after Mr. Elton paid him £1,000 to cover his election expenses. Elton became the second baronet, upon the death of his father, the MP of the same name elected in 1722, in 1728. Death of Coster. Note, 1759 Southwell was an opposition Whig. Death of Elton. Note, 1754 Nugent 2601, Phillips 2165. Source, Stokes Smith. Death of Beckford. Seat vacated by appointment of Craigs Nugent as a Vice-Treasurer of Ireland. Seat vacated by appointment of Craigs Nugent as First Commissioner of the Board of Trade and Plantations. Creation of Craigs Nugent as the first Viscount Clare, in the Peerage of Ireland, in 1767. Seat vacated by appointment of Viscount Clare as a Vice-Treasurer of Ireland. Note, 1774 5,384 voted. Lord Clare resigned on the second day when Mr. Burke was first proposed. Mr. Burke was at the time in Malton, for which place he had been returned when the deputation arrived to invite him to Bristol, where he arrived on the sixth day's poll. Source, Stokes Smith. Note, 1780 Lippincott 3,518, Burke 0. Mr. Rich Coombe, late member of Aldebeg, was a candidate, but died the day before the commencement of the poll. Source, Stokes Smith. Death of Lippincott. Note, 1784 6,094 voted. Source, Stokes Smith. Note, 1796 poll 1 day. Source, Stokes Smith. Members of the last Parliament of Great Britain continued in office for the first Parliament of the United Kingdom from January 1, 1801. Seat vacated on the appointment of Bragg as Treasurer of the Navy. Note, 1802 Sir Frederick Eden was a candidate, but retired before the election. Source, Stokes Smith. Seat vacated on the appointment of Bragg as Secretary at War. Bragg changed his surname to Bathurst in 1804. Seat vacated on the appointment of Bathurst as Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster on June 23, 1812. Note, 1812 by-election poll 13 days, 2,142 electors voted. Source, Stokes Smith. Note, 1812 poll 10 days, 4,389 electors cast 7,415 votes. Source, Stokes Smith. Note, 1818 poll 5 days, 4,121 electors cast 7,320 votes. Source, Stokes Smith. Note, 1830 poll 4 days, source, Stokes Smith. Note, 1852 from this election the number of electors who voted is unknown, so the number of votes cast is divided by 2, and the resultant figure is used to calculate an estimated minimum turnout. To the extent that electors did not cast both their possible votes, the turnout figure will be an underestimate. Resignation of Peto McCalmont reports that Miles was unseated on petition, but that no new writ was issued before the 1868 general election. Craig also reports the election was voided. Death of Berkeley. Election of Robinson declared void on petition. Swing from Liberal to Conservative. Resignation of Hodgson. Constituency abolished. City split into 4 divisions. 1885. Boundaries of Parliamentary Constituencies 1885 to 1972. Compiled and edited by F. W. S. Craig. Parliamentary Reference Publications 1972. British Parliamentary Election Results 1832 to 1885. Compiled and edited by F. W. S. Craig. The Macmillan Press 1977. McCalmont's Parliamentary Poll Book. British Election Results 1832 to 1918. 8th edition. The Harvester Press 1971. The House of Commons 1509 to 1558. By S. T. Bindoff. Secker and Warburg 1982. The House of Commons 1558 to 1603. By P. W. Hessler. HMSO 1981. The House of Commons 1715 to 1754. By Romney Sedgwick. HMSO 1970. The House of Commons 1754 to 1790. By Sir Lewis Namier and John Brooke. HMSO 1964. The Parliaments of England by Henry Stokes Smith. First edition published in 3 volumes 1844 to 50. Second edition edited in 1 volume by F. W. S. Craig. Political Reference Publications 1973. Out of copyright. Who's Who of British Members of Parliament. Volume I 1832 to 1885. Edited by M. Stanton. The Harvester Press 1976.